But first, Freedom Convoy protesters protesting peacefully on the side of the road in Ontario after police were called in to clear those who were blocking the bridge over to Detroit. Police making about 12 arrests. And the Windsor Police Department saying, quote, the arrested persons are all facing a charge of mischief. And of course, the media is piling on the trucker convoy. The latest, the New York Times pondering why some Canadians are asking, hasn't he just ordered in the police or the army to quash the demonstrations? Okay, well, ordering in the army. Wow, I wish the New York Times would have had that same reaction to the summer of 2020 riots, but I digress. Leo, I got to get your professional opinion on this. These folks that have been arrested are being charged with what they call mischief. Now, it sounded a little Dennis the Menace to me whenever I first heard it. It sounded kind of like a broad, sort of minor charge, but it is actually punishable with up to 10 years in prison, and it usually follows vandalism of some variety. These people have been very peaceful, so it kind of makes you wonder about that. But what are your thoughts? Is this going to deter any of the trucker convoy, the protesters there, from stopping?
You know what, Laura, I say yes and no. I think, look at them. They're very peaceful. I think you're finding out that the government do not want these, what I call very, very peaceful protesters to bring up the issue of these tyrannical government mandates. It's all about mandates. And what you see these Canadians doing has impacted the entire world. And I'm so glad you brought up the 2020 riots in this country and the New York Times. They didn't call for the army. They didn't call for the police. I want to be clear, and the Fox viewers know this. There were murders, arson, vandalism, people constantly committing crimes, and the left look the other way. And they go after these protesters. The motivation is simple, because these individuals are fighting against federal mandates and government control. And you know what? It doesn't fit the left agenda. I am proud of these protesters.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, honestly, are cheering them on, not just in Canada, here in America, all over the world. You're right, Leo. They're standing up for freedom. That is ultimately what this is all about. And, you know, Joey, they might get them off the bridge, right? They might move them out of the roadway. But these truckers do have another option. What if they just decide we're not going to drive our trucks anymore? I mean, that is an option they have, too. And then what happens? Then what avenue is the government in Canada going to take to stop them and get them back on the road?
That's a great question, and that is an option, and it's probably the next option. I think what we can understand here is that an effective protest doesn't necessarily have to stay effective in the way you're protesting. In other words, they've done the damage. They've raised the flag, they've sounded the alarm, and they have Canadians interested in this issue in a way they probably weren't before. I think something that's important to notice here is that when we look at our own American liberal media and pundits responding to this, there's a theme here, which is that, you know, fundamental principles don't get to just be convenient. They really believe that because they being the liberal media, they think that because they're so set on believing that mask mandates and vaccines are the right thing to do, that you can kind of risk or gamble principles to make that happen. They think that they're being pragmatic in that way, when in fact the thing about principles is they don't get to be comfortable, they just have to be consistent. And as a conservative, when the protests turn to riots in this country, without a lot of personal connection to that issue that they were rioting about, I said on this channel time and time again, I support their protest. I support their voice. I support them walking down the middle of the street because I want to learn about that issue. But what I don't support is burning down federal buildings, causing harm and hurting people. That's not what's happening here. That's called being principled, and I would ask the same of my liberal colleagues if I had the opportunity.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, it seems that the folks here in the United States in charge of so much, especially White House Homeland Security Advisor Dr. Liz Sherwood-Randall, is concerned. She says in a statement, we are working closely with our Canadian counterparts to end the blockade of key bridges and crossings between the United States and Canada and to restore vital commerce between our two nations. We discussed the widespread damaging impacts the obstructions have already had on the lives and livelihoods of people in both our nations and the imperative of taking swift, strong action and deterring future blockades. you know, it seems like you look at these people, they don't look to be that big of a threat. And, you know, we've both Joey and Leo, you both talked about the fact that the reaction was so different here in America in the summer of 2020. When, Aisha, you've talked multiple times about how frightened you were yourself going out to cover those riots in New York City. Obviously, there were people all over our country who felt threatened because cities were literally being burned to the ground, and the interest now being taken by the liberal media and by our own government seems rather interesting, considering it's not even happening in our country, and clearly these people don't seem to be that big of a threat. But I do want to just go back to the guy in charge there in Canada, Justin Trudeau, because he's been very outspoken against these truckers, right? But how about this tweet from March 31st, 2020? He says this: while many of us are working from home, there are others who aren't able to do that, like the truck drivers who are working day and night to make sure our shelves are stocked. So when you can, please hashtag thank a trucker for everything they're doing and help them however you can. Aisha, what changed here? He was so pro-truckers not too long ago. All of a sudden, these are the worst people in his country. What happened?
I gotta tell you, those tweets will get you every time. You gotta be careful. Look, I'm glad we're talking about Canada, what's happening there, but I'm more interested in what happens here, because these convoys, it sounds like, are going to start popping up in the U.S. And I'm interested to see what the reaction is going to be, because we're already hearing from different governors from blue states like Michigan, New York, that are very concerned about what might happen. Governor Whitmer up in Michigan calling these protests dangerous. So I'm interested to see what happens. And I think that this could really turn into a big midterm issue, especially because the environment has changed. I don't know if you're paying attention to what is happening in the state of New York, and specifically New York City. You've got Democrats, right? Liberals who are fed up with these mandates and with what's happening with this city. You've got this New York mom now, if you've been following the story about Maud Moran, who is now going to be running for Congress to try to unseat longtime Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. I mean, that tells you something is shifting. So I want to see what happens when these things start popping up. If one heads over to the Capitol, how is the city going to respond to these convoys here in the United States? Because I think it will change or shift the outcome of the midterms coming up. People are very frustrated.
People are frustrated. And Leo, I'm just going to go back to you real quick with Justin Trudeau. You know, he kind of has himself in a tough spot here. Obviously, we see the hypocritical tweet he had there, and Aisha's right, they'll always come back to haunt you. But, you know, he could just meet with some of these truckers, hear them out. But I guess it feels like he's going to cave, and maybe, is this all just politics for him? Is that why we've seen no movement on his end?
Is it all politics? Yes, Laura, it is all politics. And he can't cave in, because that would be doing the right thing. These truckers have a legitimate claim. And I want to go back to what Aisha said. You know what? When these truckers were out there, when there was no vaccine, like the firefighters, like the first responders, like the police officers, like the nurses, look what the government is, how they're treating them now. They're throwing them under the bus. They're throwing all these people who risk their lives to help us now under the bus because it doesn't fit their agenda, Laura.
So sad to see. You're exactly right. All right, well, we're going to keep an eye on this.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.